and not super out loud online? Just a question. Just thinking here.
Well, I'm using this video to tell you about my skinny problems. Hello YouTube, and welcome to the Body Honesty Project. My name is Lydia, and today I'm going to be giving you some of my own body honesty. So, punchline first. I've gained weight. And as such, I've been a little bit camera shy and avoiding making content because of all the things that have happened recently and me not wanting to put myself out there. But in order to stay true to my brand, I figured, okay, Lydia, let's just go out there, be honest about it, and share your weight gain story with your audience. So here goes. So about 4 months ago, I was out with my son and one of his friends, and I took him roller skating. And when I say roller skating, I mean quad wheel roller skating, not inline skating. And I have very, very little experience with quads. I know how to inline skate, and I obviously know how to figure skate, but quads are a different beast. Anyways, for some reason, I thought that if Miss Tara Lipinski could be great on both figure skates and quad wheels, I should be a natural. I should be able to do this very easily. Turns out no. Turns out all the turning and mechanics are different. And when my son skated into me, I did not have the same balance that I have on figure skates. No, I don't have good balance at all. And when he slid into me, I slid onto my butt and my ankle went right up in the air and cracked. And when it cracked so hard that it was facing the wrong direction. And I had to grab my foot and feel it go crunch, crunch, crunch to get it back into its original position. So at this point, I knew something bad had happened. I had never broken a limb at this point, so I didn't know if it was a break for sure, but I knew that something bad had happened. So at that moment, my son ran for help to get someone to call me an ambulance because I knew that there was no way in hell that I was getting up. Turns out the ambulance took about 30 minutes to get there, and I stayed lying down in the middle of that roller rink while all the guests skated around me. Once I finally got to the hospital, I knew it wasn't good news. My ankle was swelling by the second, and the pain was unbearable. Turns out I fractured my foot good, on the inside and on the outside. So after spending a night in the hospital, I got to have surgery the next day that put an anchor in on one side of my ankle and a large plate and screws on the other. I also woke up with a brand new surgical cast, which I was told would stay on for 2 weeks, and during those 2 weeks, I was to put no pressure on my foot whatsoever. When the hospital discharged me, they also gave me crutches. Now, I have never, ever walked on crutches before, and the hospital gave me very, very little instruction on how to use crutches. So I fumbled around with them, but I really found them quite useless altogether. So the smart girl that I am decided, I don't need these crutches. I can just kind of hop everywhere for the next little while. I figured I'm strong and athletic. What's the harm in hopping? Well, I'll tell you what's the harm in hopping. Your body can't do that hopping motion constantly. I tried to hop everywhere. But you know what happened? I developed severe tendinitis in my left ankle. So after a while, I had no good working feet. And when I could no longer hop, well, I started to crawl because I still needed to get around, even if it meant just going to my desk or going to the bathroom. I still needed a way of getting around, so I was using my knees. But over time, I started to scrape up my knees, and the bruises and cuts on them just made it more painful to do that motion. So I started to feel incredibly immobile. Now, after 2 weeks in the surgical cast, I went back to see the orthopedic surgeon, and I knew that I was getting an air cast. So I thought maybe I'll get some more freedom with this new cast instead of having to wear that surgical cast all the time. And I guess it was a little bit more freedom because you can remove the air cast. But I was still told to not put any pressure on my foot for another 4 weeks. At this time, I was starting to slip into depression. I did not know what to do with myself. Now, I have made no secret that I have struggled with mental health issues in the past, and I still do. It's a daily battle. But most of my coping mechanisms are physical. I like working out, I like doing actual exercise, but I also like physical activity that's not actual exercise, like going for a stroll, or stretching, or dancing, just moving my body and clearing my mind. Well, with a broken ankle, I couldn't do any of that. So all of my normal coping mechanisms were out the window. Not only could I not care for myself physically, I was really struggling to care for myself mentally. I started to get more and more depressed, and every day I started to do less and less. I'd spend most of the day just laying on my bed because it was just too damn difficult to go anywhere else. Even going to the bathroom was a big ordeal. I really did not know what to do. So then I started to look for mobility devices to improve my life. And I'm going to tell you about 2 things that I bought that I would recommend to anybody that breaks their foot. I bought myself an iWalk handless crutch and a knee rover. And the iWalk handless crutch was pivotal because, oh my goodness, after getting used to this, which really only took me maybe about 20-30 minutes, I could walk. I could walk with my hands free. I could stand at the kitchen. I could cook dinner. There was a whole bunch of things I could do without having to use crutches under my arms or crawl around on the floor. So the iWalk, as soon as I got it, I wished, oh my God, why did I not get this as soon as I broke my foot? Why did I wait to be 4 weeks into the recovery process before I got this damn thing? Because this has changed my life. So at that moment, there was a bit of a spike in my joie de vivre. There was a spike in my happiness because I did have the ability to be mobile. The knee rover, which is also a good tool, was less beneficial than I thought. It's really good for indoor surfaces like a mall where it's nice and smooth, but it's not so pleasant to use outside. I find the pavement way too bumpy and I got more pains in my neck and back just trying to keep it straight. So the knee rover, although in theory looks like it's super simple to use, it's really only good if you're in a building with lots of long, smooth surfaces like a hospital or a school or a shopping center. It's not so good for going outside, and it's not so good for navigating around your house unless you live in a bungalow. So at this point, I think, okay, my mental health is turning around. I have some mobility. Things are getting better. But the injuries that I sustained at the beginning of this recovery process came back to haunt me because the tendonitis that I developed at the beginning showed up once again as I continued to overuse my good foot. So once again, I had to scale back on the physical activity and I was once again bedridden. Now, this is where I took a turn for the worse. I started to binge sugar. Do I know better? Yes. But at this point, I just wanted something to make me feel better. And the things that I usually do to feel better, I could not do. So I started to eat a little bit of candy. A little bit of candy, a little bit of chocolate, then a couple cookies, and some ice cream. Until binging sugar and sugary treats started to become a daily thing. And I know what I was doing. I was using sugar to placate my emotions. I was frustrated with not being able to move. I was frustrated with not being able to clear my head. And the only little bit of joy that I was getting in my life was with the sugary candies and treats, so I continued to indulge. Then we get to 6 weeks into recovery, where the orthopedic surgeon says the air cast needs to stay on, but you're now allowed to walk with the boot on. And with this news, I thought, okay, this has got to mean some freedom. I can finally start living my life. So with the boot on, at least I could walk without any device. I did not need the knee rover. I did not need the iWalker. I could get out and about on my own. But walking with the boot is not the same as walking without a boot. and the cadence is weird and your joints get sore faster, and it was really cumbersome. So even though, yes, once again, there was more freedom, I guess I got my hopes up too much because I was once again let down at how little freedom that really was. So because the mobility wasn't where I wanted it to be, I continue to slip farther into depression and continue to eat more and more sugar to placate myself. 4 weeks after that, the space boot came off and physiotherapy began. And there is a very, very long road ahead. Yes, I am able to walk without a device on my foot. Yes, for the most part, I don't have as much pain, but the mobility is still not there. I'm not able to put impact pressure yet on my foot, and I can feel the hardware moving around inside of it. And as such, I have been letting all of these little things get me down rather than find happiness in the improvements that have happened in my life in the past couple of months. Now, there was a good thing that came out of this experience, and that was me discovering a new hobby in my life. Because, as I said before, in order for me to deal with my mental health problems, I typically would do something physical. I would either exercise hard or go for a stroll, stretch, dance, something involving moving my body. I didn't have any other hobbies or other activities that I liked to do. So about, I think 4 weeks into my recovery, I was getting really, really frustrated with not being able to do something and being absolutely miserable. So I went to Michael's and I'm like, I am going to find some sort of craft to busy myself. I'm going to find something that I actually enjoy doing. And I discovered diamond painting. And I have to say that this activity has completely changed and taken over my life. So for those of you who don't know what diamond painting is, it's essentially paint by number with tiny little gems. You can either get a big canvas or you can get little ornaments like wind chimes, magnets, or any of the little things that I have up here that come with a stencil on it and a little stylus, and use that stylus to stick the corresponding gems onto it that end up creating a glittery piece of art. Now, once I started doing this, I couldn't stop. So I started doing coasters and then grew to doing poster mats and then keychains and window chimes and all the pieces of this background here, which is still a work in progress. And I'm finding that this activity has helped me so much mentally. I believe that anyone that has ADHD should try this because I honestly find that there's a calming motion of doing this repetitive action. It's like the motion of doing the diamond painting takes the noise away from my brain so that I can focus on what I need to focus on. Because as someone who has ADHD, whenever I'm trying to focus on a task, there's always other tasks, other things I'm supposed to be doing that are spinning in my head. So if I'm in a meeting and I'm trying to focus on work, I'll have other parts of my brain firing about pick up the kids, get your prescription, do the laundry, don't forget about this, don't forget about that, and that's always going. However, if I'm diamond painting, the diamond painting doesn't take away my attention from the meeting that I'm supposed to be paying attention to. No, the diamond painting takes the distraction noise away. So instead of thinking about the laundry, instead of thinking about the groceries, instead of thinking about all those other things, I'm actually just listening to my meeting while my hands are busy doing the diamond painting. So learning that has been a complete game changer for me. This has made my general functioning just so much easier. But on top of that, it's an activity that I really like doing. It's part of my winding down. What I really enjoy is putting on a good audiobook and sitting down and diamond painting for a few hours. It's better than sitting in front of the television. I can use it to learn something, I can use it to unwind, plus it's a creative outlet at the same time. So I guess if I didn't break my foot and have all of my physical activity outlets taken away from me, I never would have discovered this new hobby. Which now brings me to the part of the video where I'm gonna do all of the thin person bitching. Yes, all of those fat acceptance TikToks where they tell the thin people to
To yourself and not super out loud online. Just a question. Just thinking here.
well, I'm using this video to tell you about my skinny problems. So, here we go. So, fat acceptance will often gripe about how thin girls have no right to bitch about gaining weight because they don't understand what it's like to really be fat, and how all of their issues are nothing in comparison to those of women who have much more weight to lose. Like, why are you bitching about 5 pounds? I have like 100 pounds to lose. With the logic that you really have nothing to complain about if you have 5 or 10 pounds that are annoying you versus 100 or more. And the first thing I want to address is the amount of weight that it takes to make a difference, to make us uncomfortable, and need a whole new wardrobe. Okay? Because this is completely lost on many, many obese people. Like, many really obese people don't even notice that they've gained weight until it's like over 30 pounds. And if you're a small person, you know that you start to feel it after 3. Now, let me explain so it's not just a small beef that is about being vain. Now, at my size, if I put on 5 pounds, I can feel it in my clothes. If I put on 10 pounds, my clothes are pretty darn tight. And if I put on 15, I don't know if I can zip them. So that's the spread of weight for me. 5 pounds, it's uncomfortable. 10 pounds, it's freaking tight. And 15, I'm wearing them with the zipper undone. So if I gain weight, what are my options? I can go and buy a whole new wardrobe, or I can lose weight and wear the wardrobe that I have. Now, I know fat activists will say, well, you're lucky that you can find your size. Yeah, I can find my clothing in a size larger. But do I have the money to afford to buy clothing in a size up? And remember, it's only 15 pounds that requires me to get a size up. So I don't want to have to do this very often. That's a major difference with clothing made for straight sizes versus plus sizes. The amount of stretch and the amount of poundage between each size. I mean, the difference between what, a 3X and a 4X is like 100 pounds? But the difference between a size 2 and a 4 is like 10 pounds? Plus size clothing is made with stretch. Even when there is a straight size equivalent, the straight size equivalent is always made with less stretch and is a slightly different style. That also makes our clothing unwearable when we gain weight. If there's a straight size button-down blouse, it's going to be buttoned down all the way down. If there is a plus size button-down blouse, it probably has buttons to here and then a stretch fabric, which means that if I wear that blouse and I gain weight, the middle buttons are going to constantly look like they're going to blow at any second. There is far less flexibility within the sizes when you are straight size. And yes, even though those clothes are available to purchase, you have to have the money to purchase them. So what usually happens to me is I continue to wear my ill-fitting clothing until I can lose weight. And ill-fitting clothing puts me in a bad mood, especially ill-fitting underwear. Now, that is always a bad thing. So when I gain weight and my underwear gets tight, I'm going to be crusty. Bad underwear will always put me in a bad mood. And that means underwear that is either too small or too big. If it's too big, it bunches, and if it's too small, it digs. And whenever I gain weight and I end up in between sizes, it drives me nuts, and I end up in a far more irritable mood. So if I've gained a little bit of weight and I'm not quite in the size up, and the current underwear that I have is digging in and making me uncomfortable, I'm just bitchy until I have gotten myself into a size that fits comfortably. Then there's also the aspect of clothing and confidence. How do you like to express yourself? Well, I have a lot of clothes that I wear that do make me feel good about myself. And when those don't fit, I have to go to stretchier clothes or more sweatpants type of clothes, and those clothes don't make me feel good about myself. So I could either shove myself into clothes that don't fit, spend money that I don't have, or wear stuff that's comfortable that I don't feel good about myself in. Now, I know that the fat activist line is in order to have confidence and to have comfort, you don't have to lose weight. Well, I could look for other ways to feel confident and to feel comfortable and to have clothing that fits me. Or I could just lose the 15 pounds and all of that will happen anyways. Losing weight doesn't have to mean that you hate yourself. Losing weight to me means regaining the life that I had before I gained the weight. So yes, as a thinner person, I don't know the same struggles as a morbidly obese person has with respect to how their clothing fits and their body image issues. But I don't think that they know our clothing issues. It must be nice to be able to gain 50 pounds and not need to replace your wardrobe. Because for me, if I gained 50 pounds, I would have had to replace my wardrobe 3 times over. So yes, thin women that put on a little weight have different gripes than fat women who have always been fat and don't understand why thin women complain about gaining 5 or 10 pounds, because they don't have to deal with the same problems. However, I don't want you to think that my complaining about gaining weight means that I have not taken any accountability in my weight gain, because I totally have. I know that I had an injury and I was not able to exercise as much. I know I couldn't help that, and I know that that probably produced some weight gain. But this is where the honesty comes into play here. Because if I'm truly honest with myself, I know it wasn't the injury. That was only a very, very small part of it. It was the constant sugar binging that caused the weight gain. I'm not immune to calories in versus calories out. I didn't know how to handle the mental stresses of not being able to move. I didn't have the coping mechanisms. So I turned to food. And that's the thing about fat acceptance that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. It's the lack of accountability. I have a good reason for why I wasn't exercising. I had a broken foot. But it does me no good to blame that entirely when I know what behaviors I did to myself that caused the weight gain. Fat acceptance likes to talk about health promoting behaviors that have nothing to do with a number on a scale. Fat Sapphic Bro will say that when you're doing everything right, the number may go up or down or stay the same. Who knows? But that's not true. I know what my life looked like over the past 4 months. I know that I was not moving as much, not my fault, but I was also eating a whole lot of crap, totally my fault. And if I do the health promoting behaviors of trying to do what physical activity I can, and cutting back on or cutting out a lot of the sugary crap I was eating, guess what? My weight is gonna go down. And what will that mean for me? Well, if my weight goes down, my clothes will fit me again, my underwear won't be as tight, and I'll be in a better mood. So, am I doing intentional weight loss? Hell yeah, I'm doing intentional weight loss. But the weight loss itself isn't the only reason. I know that losing weight will improve my health and make me in a better mood. Is my excess fat the reason why my health isn't great right now? No, but once I start doing all the other things, like eating better and exercising, my weight will go down. So my weight is an indicator of my health. We all have reasons for why we're not doing or not doing as much as we could do to improve our health. And a lot of those reasons are good reasons. I can't walk an hour a day because I broke my ankle. But it gets dangerous when the reasons turn into excuses. I can't walk, so I'm sad. Therefore, it's okay to eat a whole bag of candy. Now, that's not bad if it happens once in a while. But when that starts to become your regular reasoning, it's time for a moment of honesty. So, until next time, stay body positive, but also body honest.